The fog rolled in thick, swallowing Ravenwood in its damp embrace. Streetlights flickered, their feeble light swallowed by the murk. The air was heavy, pressing against Lena's skin like a wet shroud as she walked home from her shift at the diner. The town was unnervingly quiet, the usual night sounds stifled by the fog. As she passed the old cemetery, Lena felt a familiar prickle of unease. The gravestones loomed like ancient sentinels in the gloom. She quickened her pace, trying to shake the feeling that she was being watched. The sensation grew stronger, icy fingers brushing the back of her neck. She glanced over her shoulder, but saw nothing except the swirling fog. Yet, the feeling persisted, gnawing at her nerves. "Just get home," she muttered, her breath puffing in the cold air. But as she turned onto her street, the fog grew thicker, more oppressive. The houses faded into ghostly outlines, and Lena's steps slowed. The fog was unnatural. It felt alive, as if it had a will of its own. Whispers, faint and unintelligible, drifted through the fog. Lena froze, straining to hear. The whispers seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, growing louder, more insistent. Her heart pounded as she realized the voices weren't just incoherent mutterings. They were calling her name. "Lena, Lena." She spun around, eyes wide with fear. But there was no one there, only the swirling mist. The voices grew louder, overlapping in eerie tones. "Lena, come to us." Panic surged through her. She broke into a run, breath ragged. The fog clung to her like a living thing, wrapping around her legs, her arms, trying to pull her back. The voices followed, relentless and haunting. She reached her front door, fumbling with the keys. Her hands trembled so badly she dropped them. She bent to pick them up, but something cold brushed her hand. Lena yanked it back with a gasp, staring into the fog. A figure stood there, just beyond the reach of the porch light. "Who's there?" she demanded, voice shaking. The figure didn't move, didn't speak. It was tall and gaunt, its features obscured by the fog, but Lena could feel its eyes on her, boring into her soul. "Lena?" The voice was a low, raspy whisper, closer now, too close. She grabbed the keys and jammed them into the lock. The door finally swung open, and she stumbled inside, slamming it shut. Silence fell, thick and suffocating. The fog pressed against the windows, turning the glass an opaque white. The whispers were gone, leaving only a heavy, unnatural stillness. Lena backed away from the door, eyes darting around the dimly lit living room. The house felt wrong, as if the fog had seeped inside. The shadows seemed darker, deeper, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. A floorboard creaked upstairs. Lena's blood ran cold. She knew she was the only one in the house. She forced herself to move, grabbing the fireplace poker as she made her way to the staircase. At the top of the stairs, she hesitated. The hallway stretched before her, shrouded in darkness. Another creak came from the end of the hallway. Lena gripped the poker tighter, forcing herself to move forward. Her pulse thundered in her ears as she approached the last door, her bedroom. The door was ajar, just enough to let the fog curl inside like ghostly fingers. Lena swallowed hard, every instinct screaming at her to run, but she couldn't. Something was drawing her closer. She pushed the door open with the tip of the poker. The room was ice cold, the bed a vague shape in the mist. And there, standing by the window, was the figure. It turned slowly to face her, and Lena's blood froze. The figure was a twisted mockery of human, its features warped as if carved from the fog itself. Its eyes were hollow pits, endless voids that seemed to pull her in. "Lena." The voice was a rasping whisper, barely human. "You can't escape us." She staggered back, terror clawing at her throat. The figure moved closer, its form dissolving and reforming with each step. Lena raised the poker, but her arms felt like lead, too heavy to lift. The whispers returned, louder now, filling the room with a suffocating presence. They swirled around her, burrowing into her mind. "Join us, Lena." The figure reached out, its hand a pale, translucent claw. Lena tried to scream, but the sound died in her throat as the fog engulfed her. It seeped into her mouth, her nose, her lungs, filling her with a cold that went beyond physical. The next morning, the fog lifted as suddenly as it had come. Ravenwood woke to find Lena's house empty, the front door hanging open. No trace of her was ever found, except for a single whisper that echoed through the town whenever the fog rolled in. "Lena."